what you want, when you want it, where you want it. This is The Mesh.
Every now and then, during the course of an adventure, there comes a time for reflection. A few moments dedicated to what you've done and what you've left undone and what maybe you could do better. We're not going to wade into any deep philosophical points of humanity today, but now that we're recently at our 50th podcast episode, that may or may not be this week, depending on who's counting and whether a trailer counts as an episode. This could be the 50th one. But now that we've hit that half-century episode or near to it, we've got a chance to look back at the body of work that we've created on the Low and Slow Barbecue Show. Today, we're going to recap some of my favorite episodes from the past couple years of this podcasting adventure. I'll talk about my favorite barbecue bites that I've found during this past summer of travels, places you might try over the long Labor Day holiday. Just be sure and check the hours. They may be closed on Monday or Sunday or maybe even Saturday. Finally, I'm also going to cover some of the places where I get barbecue news and inspiration on the regs. First, a quick invitation to visit lowslowbbqshow.com. You can subscribe to our newsletter. We'll send the blog, podcast links, as well as barbecue news, recipes, all that to your email inbox. Just go to lowslowbbqshow.com. That's also home to the podcasts that we've produced here on the Mesh.tv, including today's episode, like we said, that's going to cover some of my favorite podcast conversations over the past 50 episodes of the show. So of those greatest hits, number one, Hungry Heroes. The founder, Amanda Riggin, was so nice to spend a little bit of time with us. We met her originally at the Carolina Barbecue Festival and had a nice little conversation and found out about her organization. Then she was so kind to come on to our podcast. And honestly, it couldn't have happened at a more timely moment in our community's history. Some folks around the Carolinas may remember it, but if you don't know Hungry Heroes, they're a great organization that provides hot meals, often barbecue, to first responders and veterans as a show of support for the things that they do, particularly during crisis. And as some folks may remember, there were some officers killed in the line of duty in Charlotte, and our episode was well timed to come really pretty much immediately after that incident happened. So it was nice to kind of put a spotlight on Amanda and Hungry Heroes and some of the things that they do to help our first responders in the community. And that's really kind of what we started the podcast for, to put a spotlight on people doing some really good things in the barbecue community. And obviously Amanda Riggin, Hungry Heroes, the founder there, is one of those great people. So really enjoyed having her on. Another great charity that we had during the course of our podcast was Operation Barbecue Relief. Sean Hayes, he's promoting the Carolina Barbecue Festival. I had a chance to meet him there in their events there on a Friday. He was there, and they received proceeds from the Barbecue Festival. And so there's a nice common bond there between the festival and this great organization that really has a nationwide presence in Operation Barbecue Relief. You can find out all about the organization in our episode, and there's a blog there at lowslowbbqshow.com. You also find out about how Sweet Lou got connected with Operation Barbecue Relief, but they're really doing some cool things over there in the Ozarks part of the world with a big camp that unfortunately had a fire just very recently. They've created a facility to host veterans and families of fallen members of the emergency responders of the military and have them on a getaway retreat to provide some therapeutic service and conditioning for them. And so they're really getting that project going there. That's Camp OBR, Operation Barbecue Relief there in the Ozarks. So Sean Hayes and his group are doing great. Please go listen to the episode. He tells us the story about how the organization got started, and it really got started after some tornadoes. And I'll say, quite honestly, it was something that has a close connection to me. Coming up where I came from, tornadoes were always a threat, and to hear him and his team jump in after so many natural disasters is really inspiring. He provides something that people really need at a time when they need it most, and that's a hot meal. So really enjoyed having a chance to talk with Sean and meet him. Brian Furman was another guy that we've had a great conversation with, and I think I'm calling him out because Brian, I've met him a couple of times, and you'll probably notice I've talked about the Carolina Barbecue Barbecue Festival a few times today. Met a lot of those guys through the festival. It's been very cool. The relationship we've been able to develop with Sweet Lou and the team all over there at Let's Meet Charlotte through the Carolina Barbecue Festival. But I met Brian there. He was one of the pit masters that have been there the past couple years. Made a nice connection with him both during the VIP night and during the festival. I was really just kind of impressed about the food that he's creating and his story. And he had kind of a cool story because he's been barbecue's king. Atlanta's king of barbecue there for a little while. And then I think he kind of ran into some problems with fires at his restaurant. They kind of seemed like a setback after setback. But now he's kind of getting back on the road to having a restaurant open. And speaking of on the road, our conversation actually happened in a U-Haul dealership. So that's the first podcast we've had that, that's the way the remote world is now. You could sit down and have a conversation at a studio like we are today at the Mesh.tv, or you can do it at a U-Haul, I guess, if that's something that you have to do. But I am very sure to be grateful that Brian joined us and was able to do that for us. And that led to an interview and an article that ran in the Smoke Sheet. Some other friends of ours, Ryan and Sean Ludwig over at the Smoke Sheet. So we were able to put some content there about Brian out to a larger audience and got a blog in the works. And of course, Brian's a super, super cool guy. It was great to have a conversation with him. So as we're looking at some of the 50 greatest episodes, maybe not all 50, some of my favorite episodes during the 50. I don't have a list of more than, 12 or 75. I'm sure our producer will be glad to hear that. We're just going to go through them all. Just a few I want to cover. Blue Suede Barbecue. Those guys are doing a great job there. We had a cool time talking with Chris Loschiavo. He's a military member who joined the service after 9/11, and now he's putting together a retirement plan, a side hustle now with his barbecue business, but that's going to be his main hustle. And one of the things I thought was so cool about what Chris is doing is, he's got 3 charities he's supporting, and one of those is the Live Like Lou Foundation. It supports ALS research, and I'm sure a lot of people at this point in our society know somebody that's been affected by ALS. I certainly have as well. So it's cool that he's supporting something like that with his business that he hopes to make a career. And I know he's doing some cool stuff around Fort Liberty and his that part of the military service world with some of his barbecues. So really great to talk to him on the podcast. Another memorable one was John G's. That's Garen and Kelly Kirkman both joined us. We had a little bit of a scheduling conflict to finally get those guys on, so it was really nice to get them. And they really, really shared some great time with us. They provided a cool interview and really gave some insight into their business and their humanity. And again, I've touched on this a couple times during the course of today's conversation. That's really kind of why we started the podcast. We wanted to talk about the people that are behind these barbecue brands, put the spotlight on them and their humanity and what they're doing and how they're being better humans because of the barbecue that's in their world. And I think that John G's and Garen and Kelly they've got something really special happening in Peachland, and they also are mindful and they're extremely humble, but they're mindful about giving back to their community, and so they have some really cool stuff going on there. So listen to that episode, find out about that. One thing I also got to comment is everything we do with Ronald Simmons is a fun time. He's Master Blend Family Farms, and we've had him on the show a couple of times. One was in the studio here at the Mesh.tv in Hickory. We rolled out the big menu with some smoked chicken, and I got Black Powder Smokehouse's best macaroni recipe. We cooked up some Benny wafers from a recipe Hannah Raskin shared, and of course Ronald Simmons sausage roll. It was just a great conversation, and he gave us some really nice insight into really what the U.S. Department of Agriculture is doing to help farmers and barbecue businesses and all food services, and kind of the plight of what some of the small farmers are, because Ron has a nice intimate connection with both of those subject matter areas. So he really offered some cool insight. Plus, he's just a super high energy guy. He's great to talk to, always positive, always keeping somebody on the up and up. So it's nice to have him anytime we can. And we had a great time. Met him at John G's and met him at the Carolina Barbecue Festival again. The first time we talked to him, he was actually in the back of his vehicle. As you probably know Ron, he's always on the go from one place to another, and that was certainly one of those times. So we always enjoy having him. One of the funniest folks that I've talked to got to be Tank Jackson. Holy City Hogs. This guy's tremendous. We had a little shorty conversation with him at the barbecue festival, both this year and last year. We got some video at our YouTube channel. You can check out Tank there. Extremely funny guy. Check him out. It was probably the only conversation I've had that I had a hard time avoiding laughter throughout the course of it, because Tank's funny. You never can tell what he's going to say, and some of those times he says some of those things that you'd be surprised to say. But follow him as well at Holy City Hogs, because he gives a nice insight into what hog farming is about. He gives you a look into, kind of free range hogs, what they're doing it as they should be doing, raising the hogs the right way to produce the best product at the end. And I think Tank and his team there at Holy City Hogs are doing that, and he gives you a nice glimpse into that with his Instagram account. So I definitely encourage you to follow him. And he also delivers to pork to places all up and down the East Coast and the Southeast. So check him out, and you might find him coming to a restaurant near you very soon. If you can get in his orbit, please do. There's only one business in the Low and Slow Barbecue Spotlight on a Thursday that we came out here and we had their episode, and then they shut it down on the following Sunday. That was Bohemian Cattle Company. It's still up on the site. You can go listen to the episode if you want. You can have the website, but hopefully I didn't jinx those people. I think that they had some other things going on. Obviously, they got shut down. It wasn't the podcast that got them shut down, I don't think, but I gotta call that as one of my top favorite episodes, because hey, it's not every day you can interview somebody and then shut their business down. We talked with Hannah Raskin on the 4th of July about the history of barbecue, food journalism, and her publication, The Food Section. Hannah's a great person, extremely knowledgeable, really is putting the journalism into food journalism. It's not fluff like you'll find in a lot of places. Hannah really takes a hard-hitting approach, and she's got a great team of regional writers that are supporting her and her mission there. And that's, again, food journalism in the South and around the nation, but she's especially strong in the South and does a lot of freelance stuff with different products, publications, gravy being one of those, but she's the Food Section, so check her out if you can. And again, she's got the Benny Wafers recipe that she shared. It wasn't her recipe. She brought it up from the Low Country, but she shared that with us. So if you're interested in the food and beverage business and the news behind that business, be sure and follow Hannah Raskin at the Food Section. Last year, we also reviewed JD Smokehouse from Rutherford College. We paired him with the beers that were suggested by our friends at Three Beers Down. That was a big feast that we had on site here at the Mesh.tv network. We drank beer, we talked barbecue and beer and pairing the two together. And those guys at Three Beers Down are a lot of fun. Enjoyed having them on board and talk with them about the best beer that goes with the best barbecue. If you ever wanted to know what that might be, go back and listen to that episode. I'm not going to let the cat out of the bag here. I will just invite you to go and have a listen to it. Also, while we're shouting out the Hickory Metro local folks like JD's, a shout out to Apple City Barbecue. Adam Dula and his family are really making some great barbecue there. They're open Thursday through Saturday. And I tell you, if you show up, they'll get you in and out in a hurry with a big plate of food. Never feel like it's rushed. The meat definitely isn't rushed. You don't have to wait a long time, but the meat has waited a long time. It's low, it's slow, it is so good. So I've been trying to get to Taylorsville for Adam's Wings and Alabama White Sauce. Definitely want to check him out. We've got the recipe for his jalapeno sauce on the blog at lowslowbbqshow.com if you want to go check that out. Couple more that I want to call out before we get to the best barbecue bites of the summer, the episodes that we've had in this first 50 here on the Low and Slow Barbecue Show. One of the most emotional episodes has to be Ken and Jess Hess from County Smoke. We interviewed them at the 2023 Barbecue Festival, and I had Ken back on. He's on the YouTube channel this past year. But during our conversation at Camp North End, they were just super down-to-earth people. They've got a great story. They've really created a unique barbecue business in Lynchburg, Virginia. They're near Liberty University. I'm telling you, their smoked pastrami is the best stuff I've had. Add their mustard to it and their fire and ice pickles. It is a perfect barbecue bite. So if you ever get up to Lynchburg, Virginia, that part of the world, you're in that area, definitely check out County Smoke for great barbecue. They're really, really super cool people. And listen to the podcast. I'll tell you, Ken gets a little misty-eyed during our conversation, but he does that when he's talking about his people. He's talking about his team and how they got to where they are thanks to those people and the job that they've done. And if we make somebody cry a little bit during an interview, then I feel like I've done a job here. So the last episode we'll mention in this top 10 list, or 12 or 14 or however many, Our first ever episode recorded with the backyard barbecue expert himself, Jeff Osborne. Jeff shared his advice for the meat sweats, for sleeping on your meat, waking up to a pork shoulder, perfect for picking. He even gave us his recipe. Details are at the blog, lowslowbbqshow.com. Jeff knows his way around the low and slow meat smoking pit. He's a regular go-to for advice in our group of friends when it comes to barbecue and barbecue to cook and eat and avoid. So great to have him as a resource, and was excited to have him as our first episode to record here on the Low and Slow Barbecue Show, all the way back episode number 1. Take a couple of moments here to talk about some of the best barbecue bites of the summer. Thought I'd share those with you. I've talked about them before, but some of these guys are starting to get a little bit more news and a little bit more attention in the world. I want to make sure you remember you heard it here first about the beef cheeks at Palmyra Barbecue. And I don't know if it's Palmyra. I'm probably saying it totally wrong, but it's Hector Garate at Palmyra Barbecue in Charleston, really West Ashley. Get the beef cheeks. He landed on the top of Southern Living's best new barbecue restaurants. He's gotten some attention for being one of the best Texas barbecue plates outside of Texas, according to Texas Monthly. So check out Palmyra Barbecue. Again, get the beef cheeks. But if you want to get sides, you can't go wrong with the collard greens or really anything else that they're serving there. Also, please get the barbacoa. I did not, and I still regret that. Another great barbecue bite of the summer was at Fort Grove Barbecue in Anderson, South Carolina. The brisket was one of my favorite bites of the summer. Enjoyed it so much. Such a great experience visiting Dylan Cook and his team there. Really nice restaurant. They do a nice job. And I caught them on Thursday, so everything was really nice and fresh. And it was a great experience. Definitely would send folks back there. Another great barbecue bite from South Carolina was the brisket slaw dog at City Limits. And again, you may remember from the episode that we talked about that on Sunday. I hit City Limits late in the afternoon, a little bit close to their closing. Probably missed some crowd that other people might run into on a Saturday. We breezed right in there, walked right up to the counter and got our order and sat down. And I think they run out of one protein, but it's fine because we had their brisket corn dogs and a brisket sandwich. But for me, it was the brisket slaw dog with their chili and onions and slaw, all there. Whew, boy, take me back to West Columbia. Another best bite of the summer was our Philly cheesesteak at Ishkabibbles on South Street in Philly. And I know that's not low and slow. I know it's not barbecue, but we went to Philly and had a cheesesteak from Ishkabibbles, and Bob Golly, I recommend it. If you have a chance to do that, please do. You can't have a barbecue restaurant without sides. The sides I would send you to are in Leeds, Alabama, and that is the black-eyed peas from Rusty's. One of my stops of the summer was in Leeds and Rusty's, and I would encourage you to get the black-eyed peas. Also, the coconut pie. That's the only barbecue restaurant I visited all summer where the dessert led the news, and it was the coconut pie at Rusty's in Leeds, Alabama. So definitely check it out. Want to share a few more follows with you on the barbecue world and Instagram. I follow these guys because they do a nice job and they keep me up to date. I really like to see the food pictures they share out there. It kind of inspires me for what to do as a barbecue pitmaster in training, I guess, or as somebody who's sharing some media about that. So one of my forever follows is the Smoke Sheet. Sean Ludwig, and I mentioned him a moment ago, up until recently, Ryan Cooper. He's been taking a break, and we're wishing Ryan well during his time away from the barbecue world and wish him a speedy recovery and a return to it. And you can also still follow the Smoke Sheet. Follow Sean as well at NYC BBQ. I like to follow Jake Wood at Lawrence Barbecue in Raleigh. Speaking of his personal account, and that's Palm Trees and Pigs. Just today, he announced that Lawrence Barbecue will be expanding into a larger space in downtown Cary next summer. It's going to have a full bar, full merchandise, even a roving oyster cart. And if you know Jake and Lawrence Barbecue, that would be the perfect inclusion, a roving oyster cart that will float amongst the barbecue patrons enjoying his smoked brisket brisket, and some of the other wonderful things they've got there at Lawrence Barbecue. You can see him there on his Instagram page. And of course, I've talked about him all day, and that's John G's. They will make you hungry looking at their stories. They'll make you jealous for the people who get to be there on every barbecue Saturday. So give John G's a follow. Also, a new one that I'm following is Pitmaster in Training, Rome, and so all the underscores are in there. Pitmaster in Training, Master Rome. He's a fun follow. He's with the 26KA barbecue team. They won the Black Barbecue Cook-Off in Fayetteville a couple weeks ago, so congratulations to those guys. We gave them a shout out in the Lowdown newsletter, and definitely worth following Master Rome there at Pitmaster in Training for some of his barbecue pictures. Last, but definitely best, is probably Blue Smoke Blair, Erica Roby. She shares a ton of great content from her farm, barbecue tips, product endorsements, and farm life. I spent a lot of time growing on a farm, and I like to see the farm adventures that she has there. So check out Blue Smoke Blair to get all that. That's where we're going to leave it today. Thanks for joining us for this look back at 50 episodes of the Low and Slow Barbecue Show, which you've been listening to on the Mesh.tv network of podcasts. Be sure to visit us online at lowslowbbqshow.com. That's where you'll find the blog, and you can hear other podcast episodes. If you like what you hear on the Low and Slow Barbecue Show, please be sure to give us a 5-star rating. That helps other people find our podcast. And remember, visit lowslowbbqshow.com. Subscribe to the Lowdown newsletter. We'll send the latest podcasts, blogs, recipes, and barbecue news like we've shared today. All that right to your email inbox every Tuesday morning. Special thanks to our producer as well, Andrew Moose, and the whole team at the Mesh.tv network of podcasts. Most especially thank you for listening to the Low and Slow Barbecue Show. Remember, for the best barbecue and the best barbecue podcast, make it low and slow.
You've been listening to The Mesh, an online media network of shows and programs ranging from business to arts, sports to entertainment, music to community. All programs are available on the website as well as through iTunes and YouTube. Check us out online at themesh.tv. Discover other network shows and give us feedback on what you just heard.